Order. I call Minister James Heappey to make a statement. Mr. Heappey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. With permission, I'd like to make a statement to update the House on UK support for the UN stabilisation mission in Mali, which supports the peace process, helping to counter the spread of instability in the Sahel. This month, 300 United Kingdom troops, led by the Light Dragoons battle group, will complete their deployment into the United Nations mission in Mali, known as MINUSMA. Over recent years, Mali has become one of the most unstable countries on the African continent. Terrorist aggression and conflict between communities has been on the rise, and the United Nations multi-dimensional integrated stabilisation mission in Mali is mandated to support the Malian people in their effort to secure sustainable peace, to support the re-establishment of state authority, protect civilians, and to promote and protect human rights in Mali. By the 22nd of December, the majority of our 300 UK Armed Forces personnel will have deployed to MINUSMA and completed quarantine. Our contingent consists of 250 troops from the Light Dragoons, the Royal Anglian Regiment and other attached personnel, and a further 50 forming a national support element. They will soon begin operations in Mali, joining some 60 other nations contributing to the UN mission. The UK has committed to a 3-year deployment to MINUSMA, with a review to be held at the 18-month point. UK personnel will deploy on 6-month operational tours. Accordingly, the first deployment, led by the Light Dragoons, will be replaced by a second contingent, led by the Royal Anglian Regiment, in the summer of 2021. This government takes its responsibility as a permanent member of the UN Security Council seriously. Our deployment to MINUSMA reflects our continued commitment to and growing leadership in multilateralism and international peace and security. Our nation has a proud peacekeeping track record as we demonstrate Global Britain in practice. This deployment builds on a successful multi-year commitment to the UN mission in South Sudan, where UK peacekeepers were responsible for building hospitals, bridges and roads. Madam Deputy Speaker, in the Sahel region, over 15 million people need humanitarian assistance. 11 million are food insecure, and over 3 million are displaced because of the conflict. As with many conflicts around the world, women and girls in Mali are disproportionately affected by the continuing instability. The Sahel is the worst region on earth to be an adolescent girl, seeking 12 years of quality education, accounting for an astonishing 7% of the world's population of primary-age girls who are out of school. By 2030, almost 1 in 5 women aged 20 to 39 who have no education in the continent of Africa will be living in the Sahel. Mali is at the forefront of countries in the Sahel affected by instability. Terrorism and conflict is sharply on the rise. Mali has already registered more deaths due to violence this year than any previous year in the past decade. This violence is costing lives, hindering development across one of the world's poorest countries and spreading instability to the wider region. International action is the right thing to do from a humanitarian perspective, but history shows us that international efforts to restore law, order and security is also the best way to prevent unstable regions becoming safe havens for terrorist groups. It is in the UK's interests to act. Terrorist violence and conflict have risen sharply over recent years, and the permissive environment provided by the current instability in Mali and the wider region creates the space for developing threats. This harms UK interests and also those of our allies and partners, especially France and others in Europe. It is in all of our interests that we work together to protect civilians and help build a safer, healthier and more prosperous future for the region. Our contribution will provide critical capabilities to the UN mission at a vital time. We can have genuine impact on the mission's overall approach to help reduce the spread of conflict and insecurity, contribute to the protection of civilians and support Mali's pathway to sustainable peace. This deployment is a vital part of our work in the Sahel to build stability and bolster conflict resolution, improve the humanitarian response and strengthen partnerships between the international community and regional governments in responding to the crisis. Madam Deputy Speaker, we will be joining a UN mission led by a civilian special representative of the UN Secretary-General and an international peacekeeping force of over 60 nations led by the Swedish UN Mission Force Commander, Lieutenant General Dennis Gillenspoor. It is a truly global collaboration, with contributions being made from our Western allies, including both Germany and France, and with African nations contributing large contingents to support their region's stability. The initial objective of the first rotation of troops will be to understand the operating environment so they are best placed to support the UN mission going forward. The UK task force will be under command of the Light Dragoons commanding officer. Armed with cutting-edge technology, our troops will provide a specialist reconnaissance capability which aims to improve the mission's overall performance, particularly in protecting civilians. Our contingent will offer crucial support to the mission to better understand threats and to shape the mission's response, enabling intelligence-led operations across the mission's mandate. Our MINUSMA deployment complements existing commitments we have in the region. This includes helicopter support to Operation Barkhane, the French-led counter-terrorism initiative in Africa's Sahel region. Although these two missions are complementary, they are distinct in their objectives and tactics. Our experience in Mali will also help develop our world-class training for peacekeepers that we provide each year in Africa. Our aim is that the response for more security challenges in Africa will be African-led, and we are mentoring and training others on the continent to help us achieve that goal. Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK believes in peacekeeping as a way to stabilise and contain conflict. Our contribution to MINUSMA, alongside our enduring commitment to the UN peacekeeping operations in Cyprus and Somalia, and the staff officers we have deployed to 6 other UN missions, is the UK playing its part in a multinational effort to contain the worst consequences of violent conflict and help build confidence in the political process underway, supporting longer-term peace and reconciliation. UN peacekeeping operations are currently protecting over 125 million of the world's most vulnerable people across 13 different missions, consisting of over 98,000 troops, police and civilians. Combined, they provide a critical tool in containing and reducing conflict in the world's most fragile environments. To function effectively, UN peacekeeping relies on contributions from its members, especially from more experienced militaries like the UK's. Our deployment is a highly capable contingent able to support stronger mission performance and longer-term reform. The UK's military contribution to UN peacekeeping in Mali is a clear illustration of how our defence and security capabilities can contribute to the UK's role as a force for good in the world, working hand in hand to support the government's development and diplomatic agenda. Madam Deputy Speaker, it is important to stress that deploying to MINUSMA does not come without risk. However, our forces are world-class, and we have provided them with the right training, equipment and preparation to succeed in a complex operating environment. We have taken steps to mitigate the risks, and I am confident that our troops will make the UK proud by having a strong impact on the ground in Mali. They will bolster our standing in the United Nations and will help us in our endeavours to make the UN and its peacekeeping missions as effective as possible. As a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, we are fully committed to supporting the UN's peacekeeping missions around the world and to encourage those to be as effective as possible. Our MINUSMA deployment is a key part of that commitment, and as the Prime Minister recently noted, our uplift in defence spending should allow the UK to shape international security and provide a stronger contribution to global Britain. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, may I thank all of those serving in Mali and around the world this Christmas for their service to our nation, and extend that gratitude to their families, friends and loved ones who will be celebrating Christmas in their absence. I know everyone on all sides of the House will want to wish all of our service personnel serving over Christmas a safe tour and as merry a Christmas as they can manage.
John Healey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement. It was good to have the written statement last Thursday as troops began to arrive in Mali. It's better still to have his oral statement today, with the Minister ready to answer the range of questions that arise from this new deployment. Let me say at the outset, as I said to the House on Monday, Labour strongly support this commitment of UK troops to the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, and we do so with our eyes wide open to the risks that they face. The public expect ministers to be open about this too, so I hope the Minister will undertake to give regular reports on progress to Parliament during this deployment. He rightly says today that deploying to MINUSMA does not come without risk. The UN has described this as its most dangerous mission, with 227 personnel killed since 2013. So what assessment has he made of these risks, and what specific steps have been taken to reduce them? Last week, the French base in Mali at Gao was attacked. Where will our troops be stationed, and how secure will the British base be? The Defence Secretary has told us that this deployment, and I quote, reflects our continued commitment to multilateralism and to international peace and security. As a permanent member of the UN Security Council, Britain does have this special responsibility, which we in Labour also take seriously. Too often there's been a view that somehow peacekeeping is beneath Britain. So I hope to see confirmation in the integrated review that this has changed as part of the government's plans for a post-Brexit global Britain. Certainly, as with Mali, where Britain has special military skills, we should step up. And the Light Dragoons and the Royal Anglian Regiment are filling a capability gap in Mali as long-range reconnaissance specialists. Since the government first announced the intention to deploy these troops in July 2019, however, Mali has become more complex, less stable, more violent. This deployment is rightly limited. What measures must be met for the government to judge it a success? Are there circumstances in which the government would widen the scope or increase the size of this UK military mission? And could troops in this UN deployment also serve in the distinct and complementary French-led Barkhane mission? The government has said it's, and I quote again, stepping up its engagement in the Sahel across development, diplomacy and defence pillars. The Minister says there's, rightly, very significant development interest in Mali, with 6.8 million people in need of humanitarian assistance. And there are also significant security concerns, with drugs cartels, arms traffickers and Al-Qaeda and Islamic State terror groups all active in the region. So when coordinated action and help is clearly needed, the deep cuts made in the spending review to the Conflict, Stability and Security Fund could not have come at a worse time for the Sahel. Will the costs of this Mali deployment be met from this fund? How much in development aid is planned for Mali and the other Sahel countries over the 3-year period of this military deployment? And how are Britain's development, diplomatic and defence activities being coordinated within government? Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, Britain's responsibilities as a leading UN member are being met with this Mali mission, alongside our continuing commitment to peacekeeping operations in 8 other countries around the world. I pay tribute to our armed forces personnel who serve in these missions. They will, as the Minister says, continue to make the UK proud.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the honourable gentleman for his positive response to the statement. I think, as we were saying in the Remembrance debate a few weeks ago, it matters enormously as you deploy on missions such as this to see support on both sides of the House for what you're going out to do. He rightly asked some questions which I'll do my best to answer, starting with, of course, an intent to regularly update the House, either verbally, although that met with no support from our honourable friend from Beckenham, but to update the House regularly on the progress of the mission and the threat as it evolves. He's absolutely right to pick up on the line in my statement, Madam Deputy Speaker, that says that this mission is not without risk. This is a dangerous part of the world in which to be operating. It is because it is such a dangerous part of the world that the case for being there as part of a peacekeeping force is so easily made. And we should be clear that despite all of the training, all of the equipment, all of the mitigations that we'll put in place, and I'll explain some of those in a second, our troops are accepting a risk to life and limb in serving in the Sahel, and we thank them for that. We genuinely believe that it is in the interest of the UK and the people of Mali that we contribute to that mission. We've recognised that in previous deployments, perhaps there has been a sort of gung-ho willingness to expand the mission very quickly and get on with things without fully understanding the realities of the threat on the ground and how that manifests itself in relation to military operations. So in this first rotation, the first 6 months, Madam Deputy Speaker, we will be expecting the Light Dragoons battle group to deploy and to find its way in the immediate vicinity of Gao, the city in which the UN camp that they'll be based is in. And if over time we come to understand that actually it's possible for them to operate at range, then we will look at that and consider on its merits, depending on what the mission design is from the UN force commander. But our intention is to find our way slowly, to build our confidence and our understanding, and then to grow the mission within the confines of MINUSMA. It's important to stress that there's no UK agency in being able to just decide what we do. We are under the command of the UN force commander. The Honourable Gentleman asked me about the camp. It is a brand new camp. It is indeed in the UN super camp at Gao, but that camp is protected by a German early warning system called Mantis, which for the IDF, the indirect fire attack that the Honourable Gentleman mentioned in his reply, Mantis picked that up, which allows people in the camp to take cover and adopt all of their drills when there's incoming indirect fire. And that, sadly, as a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, is just a reality of being in camps in those places. But these early warning systems give people great confidence that they can find cover before the rounds start landing. This is indeed a complex mission. The UN's mission is made all the more challenging as a consequence of the changing political tides in Mali. There was a coup only 4 months ago. And that means that I think the military mission as designed by the UN force commander and the political mission has some work to do to evolve to react to those new political realities in Mali. Hence our caution over the speed at which we unleash the Light Dragoons into their mission. We want to see how things develop, and we'll update him and colleagues as that happens. There is no scope to widen the size of our force. We are limited by what the UN requires of us, particularly for that. And there's no scope for us to decide unilaterally as the United Kingdom that we want to do more. We are within the UN's mission. MINUSMA and Barkhane are entirely separate. There is no opportunity to flex one from the other. To do so would be to break the rules around UN peacekeeping contingents. And indeed, the missions are so different. Barkhane is a more offensive counter-terrorism operation chasing both JNIM and ISGS, not only around Mali, but Burkina Faso and Niger as well. MINUSMA is a Mali-only peacekeeping operation led by the UN. He finally asked me about funding £80 million over 3 years, which is indeed funded by CSSF. Madam Deputy Speaker, it will matter enormously to people deploying on this operation to see the tone in which these exchanges have happened. Our intent is to keep the House as informed as best we can. This is a dangerous mission, but our people are well trained, well equipped, they're ready, they're up for it, and I wish them a good tour.
Tobias Elwood.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I join the opposition and indeed the front bench in wishing our forces well and a very safe tour? The Minister speaks about the Sahel and wanting to increase our profile there. The West has been without resolve, I'm afraid, in this area. It has been that hidden conflict, and I'm pleased to see us want to close down this permissive environment that the Minister spoke about of extremism, criminality, human trafficking, and indeed regional conflict spilling out beyond the Sahel. But I do hope this commitment is matched by a greater Western resolve to tackle the underlying causes to those issues, because not through military means alone will we solve the challenges that are there. But I must tell the Minister, and I'm pleased that the Defence Secretary is in his place, I'm sorry to learn that as we take a step forward with greater resolve in the Sahel, we are taking a retrograde step back here with talk of reductions to our reserve forces and indeed their training. These are the very people, Madam Deputy Speaker, that actually are the infill to the regular forces that go out to these places. There's not an operational overseas tour that I've been on where under my command I didn't have reservists there as well. I do hope the Minister, as we step forward with greater resolve on the international stage, we will think more carefully about these cuts to our reserves. Thank you.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm delighted to say that there are a number of reservists within the deployment to Mali, and their skill set is well valued and they will do a great job. The Secretary of State, me and other ministers of the MOD have all served alongside our fantastic reservists in various theatres over the course of our own military service. Their value is undeniable and they are an integral part of the force. My right honourable friend is right to say that to some degree this is a hidden conflict, although actually with the drawdown of troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, this is now the largest Western troop deployment on earth in the Sahel. It is, however, incomplete, no matter what the size of the force, unless there is a political and diplomatic effort that goes around that response. And he's right to encourage that not just here in terms of our own diplomatic and aid effort, but within the United Nations and across all of the troop contributing nations, that the political effort matches the military one.
Now we go to Glasgow, to Carol Monaghan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement. It is important with issues such as this that the House is kept fully informed. The SNP firmly support the deployment of UK personnel supporting the UN mission in Mali. It's important that the UK continues to promote global justice and peace. I support the Minister from a humanitarian perspective and echo his point that international efforts to restore law, order and security are also the best way to prevent unstable regions becoming safe havens for terrorist groups. There are many areas of concern in Mali that need to be addressed by this international action, including food security, health and child protection. This conflict has led to displacement and death. And most disturbing are the UN reports that rape is being used as a weapon of war, with both women and young girls the target of these attacks. It is therefore conspicuous that while the UK is sending personnel to the area, which of course is most welcome, it is also cutting aid by 30%. These two issues cannot be considered separate when we're looking at the humanitarian response. The Minister has stated that the UK troops will support this government's development and diplomatic agenda as a force for good in the world. With the cuts to the aid described, can the Minister explain how these cuts could impact the UN mission in Mali? Can he detail whether any civilian support has been cut on the ground, including those working with victims of sexual violence? Given the increase in terrorist activity and instability in the region, what safeguards are being considered for the personnel who are being deployed? At what point will our troops be withdrawn? And what are the success criteria for this to happen? And finally, I would just like to pay tribute on behalf of myself and those on my benches to all those serving in such missions, especially all those personnel who will be away from their loved ones over the Christmas period.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On the ODA point, Madam Deputy Speaker, rather a lot of MOD activity, which has huge humanitarian advantage, wasn't counted under the ODA definition. And we're rather proud of the amount that we do that doesn't make it into the accounting against that budget. May I thank her also for raising the importance of human security as a part of this mission. I had the pleasure the other week of doing a round table with the Countess of Wessex and the Vice Chief of the Defence Staff, using Mali as a case study in exactly how the UK should lead in human security and the role of the MOD and our armed forces in that leadership. She will be pleased to know that within the deployment to MINUSMA are specialist human security officers who will add immeasurably to the emotional intelligence of the deployment and a recognition of the needs of women and other minorities within the community so that human security can be integral to the UK's effort within MINUSMA. She asks about the term of the mission and the success criteria. This is very, very different from Iraq and Afghanistan, where the circumstances for our withdrawal were principally around political intent in London. We've signed up for a 3-year commitment to the UN MINUSMA mission. We've said that we will review that commitment after 18 months to check that we still think that it's the right contribution for us to be making. But it is a time-limited commitment to the UN, and we leave at the end of it, just as we did very successfully from South Sudan earlier in the year.
Roman Chishti.
To speak by way of a declaration, I am a reservist. I welcome the statement by the Minister. Terrorists and insurgents are exploiting open borders in this region to smuggle weapons, arms and drugs. Does the British government support the French initiative to increase regional coordination through the G5 joint force to deploy 5,000 personnel from neighbouring 5 states? And with France's key role in intelligence in the Sahel region, what does the Minister make of the point made by some to include France in the Five Eyes intelligence sharing system?
Madam Deputy Speaker, the last point may require a statement entirely in its own right, but France is clearly an important partner in the international activity within the Sahel. Really important, however, to note that the French-led Barkhane mission is entirely separate to MINUSMA. Now, the Secretary of State and I both participate in conferences with other NATO defence ministers and defence ministers from across the Sahel, so we are aware of and support what France is doing to generate more mass to its Barkhane mission. But really important to note that that is separate, Madam Deputy Speaker, to what we're doing with MINUSMA.
Gavin Robertson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And as has been mentioned, I do want to thank the Minister for providing such a comprehensive statement this afternoon so soon on the back of a written ministerial statement last week. I think it is deeply welcome. I want to place on record our support for our service personnel as they deploy. The Minister will know through correspondence from the Defence Select Committee and in media reports that there are some concerns about the availability of the appropriate equipment for the circumstances. And so I do wish to ask the Minister to place on record publicly this afternoon that those who are prepared to put themselves in harm's way will have the adequate and appropriate protection for the situation in which they will find themselves.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. The environment in Mali, it requires a balance between the ballistic protection against the threat of IEDs versus an environmental challenge where heavy rain and mud can very easily lead to heavy vehicles getting bogged in. It's our assessment that Foxhound, Ridgeback, Coyote and Jackal, all of which were purchased for the Afghanistan deployment and have proven themselves against a far more severe IED threat than the one that currently exists within Mali, and have been upgraded in the decades since, that they achieve that balance between the ballistic protection required against an IED threat such as this and the environmental challenge of such weather as we're likely to experience in Mali.
Suzanne Webb.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is the latest in a long line of peacekeeping and humanitarian missions undertaken by our armed forces with the support of this Conservative government. Will my honourable friend agree with me that thanks to this government's support of our armed forces in both words and in actions, they've been able to deliver an immeasurable impact on the lives of those most in need of security and stability across the world?
Well, yes, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would. This is an addition to Defence's contribution to the life of the United Kingdom this year, of which we're very proud. They will be, within the next week or two, they will be actively involved in peacekeeping operations in Mali, in addition to all that Defence is doing at home in response to COVID, in addition to all that the Royal Navy is doing in protecting the UK's interests around the world, and what we're doing in Afghanistan, and what we're doing in Iraq, and. Our armed forces are a fantastic example of the very best of British, and we're delighted within this government to be supporting them in their endeavours.
Wanya Chamberlain.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and may I also pay tribute to troops involved in this deployment and others globally at this time. Now, reports from the UNHCR that 230 children were recruited by armed groups in Mali in the first half of 2020 alone, compared to 215 cases in all of 2019, are deeply concerning. So can I ask the Minister what steps the Government are taking with international partners to help protect vulnerable children from being taken advantage of in this way and ensure the sustainability that he referred to in his statement?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. She makes a very, very important point. The recruitment of children to the conflict is something that we abhor. And I refer her to the answer that I gave to the SNP spokesman around our enthusiasm for growing our human security capability. It's exactly this sort of thing that those human security officers are within the force to deliver, to recognise the needs of women, to protect vulnerable children, and to make sure that the needs of the whole community are considered as we go through peacekeeping missions such as this.
Gagan Mohindra.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I also welcome this statement? At their heart, all UK defence operations are focused on building stability and security worldwide, from which all nations and people are able to benefit. Will my honourable friend assure me and this House that thanks to the record spending review, we will be able to continue to contribute to global safety and prosperity in the years to come?
Well, Madam Speaker, I can. And what we aim to be doing is, through more forward presence of our armed forces around the world, find ourselves in a position where we can more easily respond to the needs of different regions where there are UK interests, or where the UK simply needs to be a force for the good alongside friends and allies in the international community. This IR gets after exactly the problem he poses, and we're very excited about what the opportunities within the IR mean for us to do the right thing in different parts of the world in the future.
Stuart MacDonald.
Speaker, Mali, of course, is one of the world's poorest countries, but it seems to be the vast network of small gold mines that is attracting jihadists and other terrorist organisations there. So what can be done as part of this international effort to try and get these gold mines put to use in getting the countries out of poverty rather than funding terrorism?
Well, Madam Speaker, if I'm honest, the Honourable Gentleman raises a point that I haven't come across in all of the briefings that I've had before the deployment. I will, of course, go and look into that dimension, but I'm not sure that these terrorist groups are motivated simply by any sort of pecuniary advantage from securing the mines that he mentions. These are people who are ideologically opposed to any sort of religious freedom, any sort of social freedom, and I fear that their determination to disrupt and to be violent would endure irrespective of what natural assets lay beneath the earth. But I will, of course, go off and inform myself.
Bob Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Minister says that this force of 300 will form a specialist reconnaissance capability. In order to do that, the troops will have to speak to the local people. And the local people, 5 to 10% of them speak the official language, which is French. The rest don't. When I took 900 soldiers to Bosnia, I required 20 interpreters minimum. I suspect we'll need at least 7 for this force. Could I ask my honourable friend whether there is an ability to recruit locally interpreters, and whether interpreters in both French and local languages, and quite a few of them, have been thought about? I'm sure the answer is yes.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. He's absolutely right. Interpreters are an essential part of any population-centric military mission. There are French-speaking personnel within the force itself, and we will be recruiting local interpreters to join the force. Crucially, these won't just be male interpreters that stand on the shoulder of the male platoon commander. These will be female interpreters that work alongside the human security officers, so that actually we are able to engage with all parts of the community in the course of our mission.
Jess Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and we all send our best wishes to our troops on this mission. The Sahel is a complicated place, and it's got a lot of long-term problems, both in terms of security and long-term development and governance. Now, I appreciate the Minister says that this is a 3-year deployment, but I wonder if he can comment on his confidence that the UN have criteria and definitions of success that we can be confident in, and an exit strategy for the mission.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Algeria Accords still set the conditions for both the political and military response of the United Nations. I don't think anybody involved in the UN political mission in Bamako would dispute that the coup and political instability in Mali over a number of years has made the political mission very challenging. But that doesn't affect necessarily the duration of this military commitment. The way that UN peacekeeping missions work is that you sign up to do your turn, and we have done so. That notwithstanding, we of course want to see greater success from the political mission and then enduring political stability in Bamako so that that UN mission can succeed.
James Sunderland.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it is not of course for MPs to dig into the tactical weeds of military deployments. But given the vast lines of communication in Mali, could the Minister please assure the House that British forces will be operating with sufficient mass, force protection and an effective reserve to deal with a potent insurgency?
Madam Deputy Speaker, there speaketh a voice of great experience, and his caution is well noted. He will be reassured to know, Madam Deputy Speaker, that, as I said in my statement, we are going to start with the first rotation focusing on understanding the ground immediately around Gao, and as we develop that understanding, growing confidence and develop our in-country ability to support ourselves at greater range, then we will expand the mission as the UN mission commander requires.
Lloyd Russell-Moyle.
I very much welcome this deployment, as I think everyone here does. But of course, in the 90s, Britain was one of the largest troop deploying nations for UN peacekeeping forces, and now we are not. This is 5% or thereabouts of what Bangladesh, the largest troop deploying nation, one of the poorest countries in the world, contributes. And whilst it's welcome the money that the government have agreed to invest in our armed forces, it does not include an increase of personnel and does not include an increase of reservists. In fact, the opposite. So will the Minister look at actually changing some of that? And will he consider the fact that troops might help stop violence, but they don't bring peace? Development does. So what's the government doing to make sure development money pours into this country so that our troops can leave it stable?
So, Madam Deputy Speaker, on the last point first, I don't think anybody in uniform within the MOD, nor even the MOD ministers, would pretend that a military solution uniquely is the answer to any of the world's problems. Of course, the military set the conditions within which prosperity in a political process can succeed. He also makes an excellent point that the campaigns of the last few years in the Balkans, in Iraq and Afghanistan have consumed UK military effort to the detriment of our contribution to peacekeeping missions. And one of the great opportunities that is afforded by the end of major combat deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan is that we now have the mass available to support very worthwhile missions like this one in Mali.
Now we go to Blackpool, to Scott Benton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In order to ensure that this peacekeeping mission does not become permanent, I ask my honourable friend what steps he is taking in conjunction with our partners in the UN to support the government and armed forces in Mali with investment, equipment and training so they can tackle the jihadist threat in the longer term.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it is not part of the UN's MINUSMA mission to explicitly be developing the capability of the Malian armed forces, but clearly that has to be a part of delivering a lasting peace in Mali, and the political mission does of course have within it security sector reform. I've said that our exit from Mali is time limited based on the 3-year commitment, but what we hope to be doing as part of the MOD's wider effort in West Africa is during that time developing the capability of other West African states so that they are better able to replace us in 3 years' time as the troop contributing nations in Mali. We think that that is the right way to both deliver a success within the mission itself, but also, after we've gone, to ensure the mission continues to succeed in our absence.
And now we go to Linlithgow, to Martin Day.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to extend my wishes to everyone involved for a successful deployment in what is seen as the UN's most dangerous peacekeeping mission. According to the UN, about 12.9 million people are affected by this crisis in Mali, with 6.8 million in need of humanitarian assistance. Does the Minister agree with me that this situation highlights a strategic weakness inherent in the UK cutting international aid budgets?
No, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm not sure I do. I think it highlights the success of being a part of a successful UN mission that is resourced in terms of its ability to make political progress, and also that is adequately resourced to make military progress too. I'm confident that the military part of the MINUSMA mission is well resourced, and the UK will play an important part within it. And as I've said in response to a number of honourable members' questions about the political mission, we just need the politics in Mali to stabilise so that the UN political mission can gain traction too.
And finally, Dr. Andrew Murison.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is absolutely right that the UK should play its part in this. But MINUSMA is the most costly of the UN's peacekeeping missions. It is the most dangerous, and arguably it's one of the least successful. Furthermore, Mali can hardly be said to be a country of primary interest to the United Kingdom. Can he assure me that our involvement will be largely technical and logistical in nature, and that it will be modest, rather like our engagement with Operation Barkhane, and that we will not be subject to mission creep?
So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I can reassure him that there will be no mission creep. This is a UN mission, and our role is confined to that. I can't however tell him that it is limited to logistical and technical. This is a specialist reconnaissance force that has been committed to the MINUSMA mission precisely to provide an ability to understand where the threat is and to deliver a population-centric peacekeeping mission. This is, however, time-limited. It is necessary, and I accept that there is no obvious UK interest in Mali itself, but I would just offer to the honourable gentleman that firstly, there's a great deal to be said for being there because the humanitarian situation requires it. And secondly, the Sahel is a huge space in which violence is flourishing on Europe's southern flank, and I think it is neither in the interests of countries in Europe, nor indeed countries in coastal West Africa, where the UK has more obvious interests, that we're not there in Sahel, going against the violence where it is there, rather than seeing it exported to places where the UK has more obvious interests.
Thank you. Point of order, Mr. Gavin Robinson.
Very grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I think this naturally draws upon some of the comments that the Minister made in the statement, highlighting the importance of reservists. Over the last number of months, Madam Deputy Speaker, I've been very encouraged by the strength of feeling in the chair that Parliament has primacy, that there's an importance that when announcements are made, we hear of them first and have the opportunity to probe and to challenge those. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, we spent 2 hours yesterday in the Defence Select Committee interrogating their accounts, and no mention was made of an announcement we saw today in the Daily Telegraph about the standing down of 2,700 Royal Naval Reservists, standing them down for a period of 4 months to penny pinch. It has been described as short-sighted. It is ill-judged, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I wonder, could you advise me, and I'm grateful that the Secretary of State remains within the chamber, advise how best parliamentarians who believe in our reservists, believe that we need to have the opportunity to explore this further, get that appropriate opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Well, I'll just take this point of order first, and I'll come to the honourable gentleman. I thank the honourable gentleman for his point of order and for having given me notice that he intended to make this point of order. I will repeat what Mr. Speaker has said many times from the chair, that if an announcement is to be made by a government department or by a minister, that it must be made first in this chamber, that any announcement must be made to Parliament. If there was an article in the Daily Telegraph or any other medium, then I cannot comment upon its veracity or not. That is not a matter for the chair, but it most certainly is a matter for the chair if indeed an announcement has been made by other means than to this House in this chamber. and if the Minister... No, I can see that the Secretary of State and the Minister... Secretary of State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I think there's a slight element of confusion. The management of the three services, the Navy, Army and Air Force, is obviously a matter for the chiefs of those staff. And as they manage their service throughout the year, they make thousands of decisions about activity, deployments, training, etc. This is not a single statement that would have been made by any government. It is, I think the Honourable Member was referring to a newspaper article. There are hundreds, there will be hundreds of announcements on a weekly basis, and I think that is the area that the point he is referring to is come from.
I take it from what the Secretary of State has said, and I'm grateful to him for responding to the point of order. I take it from what the Secretary of State has said that he is undertaking that if any notable announcement is to be made by him or his department, that it will be made first in this chamber and to this House. And I'm grateful to him for his assent to that. But I will take the chairman of the Select Committee, Tobias Elwood.
I'm grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker, for you allowing a little bit of latitude on this important issue. And I'm also grateful for the Secretary of State in clarifying this, because there are concerns that the size of our reserves will be reduced, and just as concerningly, is the training hours will be reduced as well at this critical time. Therefore, if he is able to come forward with more information and at least quash the stories or the rumours that are taking place, because that itself does damage to the reputation and the morale of those in the armed forces.
Order. I allowed the chairman of the Select Committee his moment, but he knows, and we all know that it's not a point of order, but he's made his point to the Secretary of State, and I'm sure there will be other opportunities to explore this matter further. One moment. Further to that point of order, Dr. Murison.
Very grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker, for your indulgence. I speak as one of the reservists in question. I just point out on a point of order, Madam Deputy Speaker, that it is deeply demoralising for members of the armed forces if they're not told about this in advance and simply learn it from the pages of the Daily Telegraph, excellent though the Daily Telegraph is. And I wonder if I could seek your advice on whether you feel such a thing is appropriate.
No, the honourable gentleman cannot seek my advice, as it's not my business to decide whether it is appropriate. But I have allowed the honourable gentleman, given his position in this House, to make his point, and I believe it has been heard and paid attention to by the Secretary of State and the Minister. Point of order, Fleur Anderson.
I thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On a point of order, I would like to see your help and advice in getting the Home Secretary response to 17 constituents for whom I have made representations as their MP, and I'm chasing for a reply. Some have been waiting for years, most for many months, and all with life-changing issues that affect their whole family. Surely it's a duty of the Home Secretary to respond to letters from members of Parliament.
Yes. Order. Once again, I will repeat from the Chair what Mr. Speaker has said on many occasions. It is indeed the duty of every minister to respond to letters and questions from members of this House. I think we are all I know we are all, as constituency members of Parliament, finding it very difficult to get letters within a reason, to get responses to our inquiries on behalf of our constituents within a reasonable time. And it is noted that the Home Office is possibly not giving the Home Secretary and her ministers the support that they need at a time like this to answer our inquiries on time. I'm grateful to the Honourable Lady for raising this point of order, and I merely repeat what Mr. Speaker has said many times, but I do hope that not only ministers but those who are employed and trusted to support ministers would please pay attention to this situation. Point of order, Sir William Cash.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like some guidance on the question of the content of the Finance Post-Transition Bill, which we're about to discuss, relating to the question of taxation and the removal on the basis of a statement that was made yesterday by the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, that the clauses which would otherwise have appeared, the notwithstanding clauses, had been removed. Now, of course, they still remain part of the United Kingdom Internal Market Bill because they haven't been removed. And I just would like to ask your guidance, because I am putting down amendments to reinsert the notwithstanding clauses into the report stage. And I'd just be grateful, first of all, you could note that, and secondly, to seek your guidance on it.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his point of order. Is his point of order the timing by which he can submit amendments at report stage? The amendments, obviously, for the committee stage are already submitted, and we will very soon be debating them. We'll come to the report stage tomorrow. Is the honourable gentleman asking me by what time he can submit amendments for tomorrow?
Indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm most grateful for the way you've put that, because first of all, I want to be clear that I'm going to do it, but secondly, I just would like to know what time I need to put them down by. With all this virtual stuff, it's quite difficult to know.
Indeed, difficult to know. I decided yesterday to have the deadline today at 12 o'clock. I am not quite certain exactly at this moment what the deadline will be for tomorrow, but I have noted, and I'm asking the clerk to note and to pass on to the appropriate offices that the honourable gentleman wishes to submit amendments. I've noted the point. Thank you very much. There was another point of order, but the honourable gentleman has gone. We will therefore proceed now to the 10-minute rule motion. Dame Diana Johnson.